Welcome to another episode of Home Buying Secrets presented by Homestocks. Today we have a special guest, Serge. Serge is our friend, and he is a software engineer at a video game company. And he recently purchased a condo, so we thought it would be a good idea to hear from someone who has just gone through the process and is in the middle of like follow-up steps. Welcome, Serge.
Thanks for having me.
Serge, first question is like, how do you feel right now? You just made the biggest purchase of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good, of course, to be a homeowner, but it's more anxiety than it is like happiness, to be honest. Just anxiety about like the things that I want to improve. Also, just overall anxiety about the market. It felt the same as when I was in stocks, except like now it's the housing market I'm thinking about instead of the stock market, which is interesting.
That's a good point. And we were talking about this the last episode as well, in the sense of there's definitely lots of pros, lots of con as well, and it's good to have like the right team with you so they can like help you along the journey. So okay, you're feeling a little bit, you're happy, a little bit anxious, but how did you feel when you started this process? Were you kind of the same level of happiness, same level of anxiety?
Well, when I started the process, I had a bunch of extra cash, right? So like I wasn't really like worried about anything. I could always just I had so much money that I could just like sit on it if I wanted to, which isn't the same right now for me. Um, so I would say that I was a lot like smoother for me back then. I was also like I didn't actually think I'll get a house, to be honest. I thought like I would like keep looking and never find anything. I had a pretty strict set of requirements, you know? Like I think I remember when I first met up with Frank, I was like, I don't know if I'll end up in a place, you know, like because I have a pretty strict set of requirements. Um, so I actually when I started it, I was pretty like chill about it because I didn't know if it would actually happen or not.
So how did you, or what made you change your requirements? Is it just like the market?
I didn't change my requirements. It's just that
Oh, you
something
got it.
came up
Okay.
that matched my requirements exactly, almost
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, which was surprising, but it happened.
How long did this whole like process take in terms of finding a place? Like a month and a half?
I think it was about a month and a half, maximum 2 months from like when I started thinking about it and actually started to look. And then that was before I even reached out to Frank or Jason, you know, and that was like before even any of that.
So Frank, question for you: is that like a common time frame for people who are kind of like prepared and they're stable, right? Last episode we talked about having financial stability before you take the first step for anything else. 1 to 2 months, is that a rough time period?
Yeah, and you know what? You'll even have somebody that like we talked about with Jason. I don't know if it was last episode or the first episode where they're not quite there, maybe credit wise. There's some stuff that they got to clean up, and I mean, gosh, it could take 6 months or a year. But usually, once people they're like, okay, I have some money, I want to buy a house. Narrow it down 1 to 2 months. Yeah, that's pretty simple. And I mean, and Serge was great to work with because he knew what he wanted. He knew where he wanted to be. Yeah, was a smaller area, maybe after looking for, say 6 months and not being able to get anything, I'd say, hey, look, you want to expand your area just because of the lack of inventory. But, in my opinion, timing is everything with real estate. When I met Serge the first time, what did Serge, we look at three places,
We looked
four, I
at three
think.
places or
Yeah.
four
And,
places,
and
yeah.
the first place that we looked at was a bottom floor unit where he actually bought his place, and it was okay. It needed some more work. Kind of had a cool loft feeling. There was some funkiness about it. And then we went and looked at a couple of other places, and then man, followed up with Serge the following week, keeping an eye on it. And then within a week or two, a pet house popped up in the building that he wanted. And we went out. I wasn't able to go and get out there right away, but I lined it up with the list agent. He went out and saw it like the next day. And I mean, we put a smoking offer in, and it was only on the market for 2 days, and they pulled it off before open houses, and he got it under contract. He did really good. I was surprised. Usually, if I was a list agent, I would have said, thank you for your offer. We'll respond after the weekend, after everybody gets to see it.
That is awesome. Yeah, sometimes timing is huge, and when you're prepared, you could strike.
Exactly. You got to be
So
ready.
so Serge, what surprised you about like the loan process overall?
Specifically the loan process.
Yeah, just like getting a
Yeah.
mortgage, getting a loan.
Okay, so there was a few interesting things about the loan process. The first is I had no idea before the process that you could just like pay money and your interest rate goes down. That was interesting. Not to hear about. Secondly, I also found out that condos are different than homes when it comes to a loan, like an actual house, like interest rates are just higher and whatnot, which was interesting to me. I don't see why that would be the case, but it is. And then I think the other thing that surprised me was, I mean, I guess this isn't just for the loan process, but overall, like appraisals can kind of fuck your day up pretty badly. Because like I had everything planned out, I had all of the money, like I had spreadsheets full of all the money with all the calculations ready in terms of like what's good, what's bad, and everything. And then the appraisal comes in and it just throws a wrench into kind of everything. So that part sucked probably the most out of the whole process. But overall, beyond that, I thought it was pretty straightforward. I don't think there was anything special beyond those things.
Okay, Jason, I want to follow up with you on a couple of those topics. So first is about this, like the difference between rates for condos and homes. Can you talk about that?
So that's it's funny. That's a question that everybody has. Condos are a little weird and unique. So with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, basically, they have an adjustment to the interest rates. So it's 75 basis points to the cost of your loan. And it's basically up until you put a 25% down payment down. So most people come into it, they're always aiming for a 20% down payment. And that's kind of the normal spot where you go, you have no mortgage insurance. And that's kind of, the normal down payment that people aim for. But on a condo, it's super confusing because, actually you want to aim for 25%. At 25%, then the adjustments fall off and it's just like you bought a regular single family residence. But yeah, up until that point, Fannie Mae has an overlay, or not an overlay, but it's called an LLPA, a loan level pricing adjustment. And it's basically just for condos. They have them for other things too. So if you're buying like a duplex, triplex, quad, there's different LLPAs pretty much built into everything. Usually it's going to be things like equity position, credit scores, things like that. But for certain types of properties, there's actual LLPAs for those properties. Condos are one of them.
Another question is, so Serge is Canadian, and it seems like, from what I understand, just buying property in the United States, anyone can buy it, especially maybe whether you have a job here or you're just paying all cash. There doesn't seem to be any like requirements on maybe getting a loan or based on your residency status.
There actually are quite a bit of changes. So the easiest is obviously if you are a citizen, right? Citizen, boom, you're in. Next step is if you have a green card. So technically on a loan application, there's two residency questions. So the first one is, are you a citizen? If you're not, then it's are you a legal resident? So if you have a green card, if you have a green card, boom, you're in. You get a copy of that. Pretty much works the same way as a citizen. Outside of that box, if you don't check either of those boxes, then there are a couple different ways to do it. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will actually loan to certain individuals, and it's based on visa type. So there's a big list of the different visas that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will accept. Serge's visa happened to fall on that list, so we were in luck there. If that's not the case, then it actually changes things really, really dramatically. So if you don't fall into that list, there's a secondary list that you can actually still get loans on, but they're not going to be Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. So it changes it up a ton. You get a higher interest rate. So instead of the super low Fannie Mae stuff, you're probably looking at something, I would say maybe like 1 to 2, potentially even 3% higher. And then and even on that list, it's not even everybody. It's only certain visas. I actually just ran into one last week who didn't qualify even on that list. And for that one, the minimum down payment jumps up to 30%. And it's not even an option of, hey, can I put less and have mortgage insurance? It's no, you're putting a minimum of 30% down or you're not buying a place.
Wow. And I think the visa you're talking about is H-1B, which, for most of our audience, a lot of our audience are engineers. And we don't produce enough good engineers here in the United States. So we got a lot of engineers coming from abroad. One more question for you, Jason, before I get back to Serge, which is, it sounded like he made the offer real fast, right? Maybe like within a day or two. I think that kind of relates to you. Like, how are you able to make a loan fast? I'm sorry, make an offer fast.
Take a step back, not having anything. It's really just being prepared, kind of like we talked about before, really, having all your ducks in a row, your finances set up, kind of knowing what you want and ready to pounce when the time is right. And that's basically where he was at, right? We had his pre-approval all lined up. We knew exactly what was going on Frank and I we work together a bunch, so we're pretty used to kind of how each other works. So we're able to go back and forth and get kind of all of those details lined up. And yeah, Frank was able to walk them through it, and they were able to put together a strong offer, a quick offer, and pull it off the market before anybody else really had a chance.
And that's great because, we're talking about mortgage brokers versus banks. And I think this all happened before the weekend showing, maybe like on a Friday. So, if you're working with someone from like Wells Fargo and it's 3 p.m. on a Friday, they're about to go clock off and maybe go play some golf or League of Legends, whatever they prefer. And but I think having like more individualized, personalized experience with the mortgage broker in that specific case, it helped out. Okay, turning back over to you, Serge. So you got the house, down payment, appraisal shortfall, you pay a lot of money out of pocket, but you're still interested in doing some renovations before you move in. So tell us, like, what do you want to upgrade? What do you want to change?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically for my place, there's some really old and ugly carpet in the bedrooms that I'm going to replace with hardwood flooring, and now I'm looking at kitchen cabinets as well. I may either do a full like replacement or just resurface the cabinets and change out the countertops. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. Also, as well, on top of that, there's just like small things to fix here and there, rattling like vent fans, like cleaning windows, maybe repairing seals on a window, servicing HVAC, just random things like that. Like Frank said, these are things that maybe if it was a buyer's market, they do, but since it's a seller's market, I do.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you a question, Frank. I think, a lot of agents are pretty familiar with properties, but I think you have a special skill set because you also highly renovate places and resell them on the market. First question I have, because I think, for those of us first-time home buyers, there's just a lot we don't know. Like, for example, first question is, why do people choose between carpet and, let's say, like wood flooring? Is it cost? And as it pertains to types of flooring, what are the high-level types? Like, I've heard there's like, laminate, there's like wood. Walk us through the flooring part first.
Yeah, so it's totally personal preference. Some people like, I don't want any carpet in my house. I have kids, I have dogs. It smells and picks up stains. So a lot of people don't like carpet because of that. You don't want to put carpet obviously in your bathrooms like grandma did, or my grandma did. I thought it was kind of weird, but it does. Carpet's cheap. If you could get cheap carpet and the insulation's cheap. So if you're more budget conscious and you don't have kids, dog doesn't bother you, things like that, then yeah, bedrooms. Usually not so much in high traffic areas, but a lot of people like carpet in their bedrooms. Me personally, I like a wood or a laminate, and then like to put like a rug down in the carpet in my bedroom. I don't necessarily want to walk around on the cold floor in my bedroom. Rugs are nice. They get ruined. You take them, you switch them out, things like that. As far as flooring goes, everybody's putting in vinyl flooring nowadays. It's great. It comes in all colors. There's planks, different sizes, different feel to it. There's concrete feels. There's wood. They can plane it. Looks real. It's waterproof. It's scratch proof. Everybody used to put laminate in their house. It was brittle. If it got wet, it would get warped. It would scratch. That's kind of gone the way of the buffalo now. Everyone's doing vinyl. If you have more, I don't know, if you want something a little warmer tone, engineered flooring and real wood are they're more expensive. It's softer. Doesn't do as well with kids and animals. But it is a little warmer to the like on your feet.
Let's say, I mean, rough ballpark here. We're talking about 2-bed, 2-bath condo, 1,300 square feet. How much would it cost to replace everything? Maybe, just everything with vinyl or hardwood. Like,
Yeah.
Is this tens of thousands of dollars?
No, what did you say, like 12 to 1,400 square feet? Yeah, it like 5,000 to 7,500 if you did like a decent vinyl.
Got it. And I think, you recommended in the past, for like a condo or smaller things, just go like Home Depot or Lowe's. Like, why do you suggest that?
Well, that you can there's a lot of people that will install your floors for you. I kind of like to have a name or somebody with more of a reputation behind it, because I've had it happen in my places where my general contractor will hire a sub and then the place will be done. I'll go and walk it and the floors are all uneven because they didn't underneath the actual like, your vinyl is a subfloor that's made out of wood. And I mean, gosh, if the house was built in the 50s or 60s, it's uneven, it's warped, and they didn't properly fix it. And now the floor has these bends and pops to it. And it's kind of like, sometimes they can leave you hanging and they're not going to fix it. And it just kind of, oh, it is what it is. Versus, if you go directly to like a flooring company or like Home Depot or Lowe's, if it's uneven, you're going to be like, fix this shit. Like this, this is where I walk around. Like I got to have an even floor. I mean, it's so important, like to have your floor not like when you walk on it pop and rebound for sure. So that's why I recommended like get somebody that's going to give you some kind of warranty for their work.
No, that's great. I'm about to do this at my girlfriend's condo as well, and I didn't even know about this. So now I'm gonna like be around and look at things because we just don't know. We don't know these things, and I was gonna just let the person do it, and maybe I'll hang out, in a living room. Okay. So that's
I would,
pretty.
What? Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I would be there, and then because I don't even like when they remove the floors, because there might be some spots that are uneven, and even if it's not a subfloor, it's not wood, and say it's like a concrete slab, there could still be some uneven or some cracks in that. So you're going to want to ask them like, hey, are there any spots that are uneven that you can float? Because there's self-leveling concrete that's super simple. You literally pour it, it levels itself, and then now your floors are straight. You just don't want uneven floors.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I talked to you this morning, so I'm not getting a nasty surprise next time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about, because just going to the list of what Serge is looking to fix. Let's talk about like countertops, right? Which generally is just the kitchen we're talking about. Maybe you have like an island too. So what are like the biggest categories in the kitchen? Is it like, like cabinets and countertops? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you have? So you have your cabinets, your lower cabinets, and then the upper cabinets. You call them uppers and lowers. A lot of people nowadays are doing two-tone. So they'll do maybe like a white shaker cabinet on the bottom and then like a navy blue, or I mean, sky's the limit because you can paint them any color. Different color cabinets. After that, you have your pulls and your knobs. Sky's the limit with that. There's all kinds of stuff. Even with like Serge mentioned, refacing, like, instead of putting all new cabinets in, you can refacing them and changing the knob or the fixture on it makes all the difference. And now you're not like ripping the whole thing off the wall. And then obviously you have your counters. Back in the day, they were Formica, tile. People were using granite maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Everybody now is doing quartz and marble. Seems like and with both of those, like they have like, especially quartz, like a lot of the quartz isn't even like a natural quartz, it's man-made. So they can put, like you mentioned earlier, all kinds of veins in it and make it more of a natural look, any color, make it sparkle, make it not sparkle. I mean, you could literally spend a whole day going to like I'm gonna call it a tile or like a counter facility. I mean, they're the size of Home Depots, and you just walk the aisles and look at slabs. There's just so much. After that, your plumbing fixtures for your sink. There's all kinds of cool faucets. There's some that, the faucet actually, I don't know how cool it is. Not everybody likes it, but when the hot water's hot, it'll turn red. And when it's cold water, it'll turn blue. So just at a glance, you can tell if it's hot or cold water. Sinks, there's farmhouse sinks, there's stainless steel sinks. I have a renovation in the city of Orange, and my interior designer for this really cool wet bar that we have in the family room put a black ceramic sink in, and it just with the tile and the counters, it looks really cool. And after that, lighting fixtures, but that's pretty much everything in your kitchen and appliances.
So let's say there's so many pieces here. Let's say just the countertops. Let's say quartz versus marble for a small kitchen. Let's say a Serge's kitchen size. Like how much I'm assuming, does marble cost more? Like
yes, marble. Yeah, quite a bit more.
So like what dollar range are we talking about roughly?
I don't usually, so all that stuff's measured in like price per square foot. I'm not actually getting out there and measuring them. I'm more looking at it like, okay, to fabricate and put quartz counters in Serge's place, like my cost probably like $2,500, $3,000. It's not a lot. Marble, gosh, $7,500, maybe 10,000. I mean, it's that much more.
And marbles, you can't engineer. It's all like natural, correct?
It's natural, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, this is why Serge and I want to go take a marble sculpting class in Tuscany. Yeah, I'll say that for a different episode. So question for you, Jason. So Serge does all these renovations in the hopes of, well, first of all, he just likes it. He has a better quality of life. And I think, I think episode 1, you guys were talking about this. One of the key things about a home is just like, do you like living there or not, right? Like there's a subjective value to it. However, all these improvements, in the future, let's say he wants to sell it, does the appraiser literally like look at what he has improved and be like, okay, this countertop increased value by 5,000. I will add 5,000 to this property. It could be Frank or Jason. I don't know which of you are more familiar with this topic.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably more of a Frank question. I mean, when someone asks me about it, I'm going to tell them, yeah, it's going to definitely be taken into account because the appraiser is going to walk through the house and they're going to look at everything, right? If they see a freshly remodeled kitchen compared to something that was done 20 years ago, it's definitely going to show that the house is worth more. But in terms of specifics, Frank probably knows a lot more of that because he's sitting there valuing properties all day long.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think the appraiser is necessarily going to put a price to like, oh, this house has granite counters or quartz counters. This one doesn't, but they definitely do for bedroom, bathroom count, air conditioning, if it has a pool, size of the lot, garage. Like if it's just your regular basic in-ground pool in Orange County, no rock slide, no, nothing crazy, 30 to 40,000. If this house has a pool and this house doesn't, this one's worth $30,000 to $40,000 more. That's pretty straight across. Seeing, air conditioning is maybe like $5,000. But what the same thing is what I'm doing is what the appraiser's doing is they have the subject property. Well, they go out there and they're looking for comps. They, if this house has, a remodel kitchen, then those are the comps that they're looking for. They want to go find the house out there with granite countertops, quartz countertops, new kitchens to make it comparable. If there isn't any of that stock, then they put a number to it. They've come up with a number and put a number to it.
So 2 questions. I don't know if you know about this, but like, how do they even go find out? Like, are they checking like some website? I'm assuming they're not just going to people's homes. You're like, okay, well, this house is a good comp. Let me like go inside.
Yeah, no. So they're not going inside the houses, but they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. Those houses were on the market. They were closed, and then they have pictures. So they're looking at the location. Oh, it's next to a freeway. I'm going to deduct a little bit from that. See the inside of it. And if there's no pictures, then, they'll call the agent and be like, hey, look at what I'm an appraiser. I have a place over here. I saw yours closed last month. There's no interior photos. What did the inside look like? Can you tell me a little bit about it? Did it have air conditioning? Was it fixed up? Was it remodeled? I get that a lot because I actually, like on my flip properties, once we close, I remove all the pictures because I don't make it a little harder on my competition to guess what we did.
Got it. Actually, that's a good question. So do you have a relationship with appraisers? Just like how, how like agents, you can have relationships with loan officers. Is appraisers, are they supposed to be like neutral third party or because, it seems like they could call you to ask about what was done and you may send it to them, but you don't want to send it to your competitors.
Yeah, not anymore. Back in the day in 2000s, yep, I could call my buddy Chasen. Hey, Chasen, got this place over here. I need it to come in at 600, comes in at 600. Probably a little bit of the problem that we ran into when the market crashed. Like, so nowadays they have what's called appraisal management companies. So, I mean, Chasing is the one actually ordering the appraisal, but you basically, you put an order into the appraisal management company and then they go, I think each of them have a little different protocol, but they basically assign it to make it now like an arm's length transaction. So there's no communication directly between the loan officer and the appraiser. But the appraiser needs access to the property. So usually the list agent is the one that they contact. Hey, I'm John. I got assigned to do the appraisal on your house. When can I get access? If there's a family living there, we got to figure it out. If it's vacant, I say, hey, it's vacant. Here's the combo, go through. Is it okay? Do you mind if I send you a list of updates done to the property? And then I also have some comps. Some appraisers are like, no, I don't want anything. Other ones are like, yeah, sure. Give me what you got. You kind of got to walk the fine line. I had this one in particular where I had a client sold the last condo in the building sold at $412,000. Theirs was really nice. I said, hey, let's price yours at $420. And see where it goes. We ended up getting a 430 off. Appraisal comes in and the appraiser appraises it at 412, exactly the same as what the last comp. So I just called him up to just, hey, look, you're not giving it any value. And he straight up told me he was cool, but he's just like, hey, just giving you the heads up, watch what you say to me, because if you basically like harass me, then I'm gonna go to the DRE and report you. And it was a cool conversation. The guy was cool. He was just letting me know, like, I'm not going to change the value. I'll answer your questions, but don't push me or I'm going to report you. And it was like, whoa. So I just want to know how come he didn't give it any increase in value, basically. And he told me to watch what I said. It's interesting.
So Jason, how do you order an appraisal, and what's your interaction with appraisal companies?
Yeah, I mean, appraisals have changed a ton, since when I first started doing this. So like Frank said, I mean, kind of back before 2008 happened, all loan officers, we had lists of appraisers. They were our favorite appraisers to work with. If we sent them a lot of business, they pushed our stuff to the front of the pile. And so it was a totally different relationship. I would literally just get on the phone and hey, can you be out to this place tomorrow? Yeah, sure thing, I'll do it. So that was then. Now, post 2008, we had some laws change. So there's a thing called Dodd-Frank, which basically rewrote all of the lending laws. And part of that was appraiser independence, which basically means I am no longer allowed to talk to or be in contact with the appraiser at all. I can't even call them on the phone and ask them a question, literally nothing. So in order to kind of get around that, or not get around it, but in order to facilitate that law, appraisal management companies, or AMCs, were created. So basically, they're just going to be a neutral third party. That's who I put the order into, and then they have the relationships with the appraisers. So they'll go ahead and find a random appraiser and send them out there. It's honestly been pretty controversial in the industry because, yeah, there were some bad apples before who were, paying appraisers to bring values in that they needed. So, hey, this house looks like it's going to appraise for $550. How about if I gave you an extra, $250? Can it appraise for $6? And that was happening. And so that's why the law went into effect. So, it definitely makes sense. But at the same time, it's absolutely killing us. There's a whole push in the industry to try to get rid of appraisal management companies these days, just because all they do is add extra costs onto an appraiser. So it makes an appraisal more expensive for a consumer. Appraisers these days, especially with how busy things have gotten, they're just putting us through it. I mean, I've had appraisals. I had one appraisal a couple months ago. It cost $2,250 for a single appraisal. And the time frames that you're getting these things, they'll say, I'll charge you $2,200 and it's going to take me 30 days to get it back. And obviously, if you're looking at an offer that's got to close escrow in 30 days, well, that's not going to work. So it's definitely a contentious situation right now with appraisals. Not to mention the requirements for becoming an appraiser are really, really, really strict. I don't know the exact amount of hours, but there's some ungodly amount of hours that you have to basically shadow another appraiser for before you can be out there and appraising homes on your own. And so right now there's this problem in the industry where you've got all these appraisers who are getting old and getting ready to retire, and there's not a lot of young people behind them to kind of fill in the spots. So that's why we're running into a lot of these issues where there's not enough appraisers. They're charging an arm and a leg. And like Frank said, I mean, you'll get some appraisers who, seem they just have an attitude problem and they're not dealing with it. I have a property in Tennessee. My appraisal took 3 months to get done, and they had to send 3 different appraisers out there. So you hear horror stories like that. I've got a client, literally, this was a loan 2 months ago. Appraiser went out there, did his thing, took pictures, and I forgot what the exact scenario was. I think he had just gotten a new laptop. His old laptop had a memory card reader that he just put the memory card into. New one didn't have it. He didn't know that he just needed to buy a memory card, USB adapter. So he didn't know how to get the pictures in. So my whole entire loan got put on hold. This guy got salty. He didn't even want to do the appraisal anymore. He just basically said, you know what? I'm not doing the appraisal. You guys can find somebody else to do it. So we literally had to then get a whole nother appraiser to get out there. Not to mention, this was an Airbnb property, so it's rented out a certain amount of time. So it threw a major problem into my loan. We had to extend the rate lock, which I think it was a big old jumbo loan. So that extension cost, I think, $7,000 just to extend the rate. And it was all because the appraiser basically just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And, we have no recourse. So yeah, man, appraisals it's a crazy game these days.
Wow. Okay. Final question for you, Jason. So how there's like banks who do loans and mortgage brokers. Do all appraisers need to work for a company, or are there like independent appraisers, but they are like independent contractors who work for an appraisal management company?
All appraisers are independent contractors, and that's why they can kind of tell you go kick rocks if they want, right? I mean, they don't actually work for anybody. So yeah, they're all independent, and different AMCs or appraisal management companies have different relationships with them. One of the actually kind of the new ways to try to get around this, or not to get around it, but help it out, is one of my lenders, United Wholesale Mortgage. They're a wholesale only lender, so you can only get through them with a broker. They actually just basically released a whole appraisal management situation of their own, where they're going to say, hey, we'll handle the entire process. You can kick the AMCs out, and we're not going to charge any extra fee. So whatever the client pays to us gets passed on to the appraiser. And the whole thought there is, hey, if we can just pay these people more money, then hopefully they're going to get out there quicker. United Wholesale is the largest wholesale lender out there, so they're doing thousands and thousands and thousands of loans. So the hope is that appraisers will want to work for them, and so you'll get paid more, get stuff done, you'll have a big book of business. So I mean, that's kind of things that different companies are doing to kind of help alleviate the problem. But I mean, in certain areas, it's definitely a problem. The Bay has been a nightmare, and then especially when you get out to rural areas, appraisers just don't want to go drive a couple hours somewhere in the middle of the country for a couple $100. So yeah, that's where you see it.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Frank? Or
just to kind of say what Jason was saying, that they brought the AMCs in to make it an arm's length transaction, but it's just increased the cost of the appraisals, and the appraisers are making less now. So like what UWM, like cut the AMC out, still keep it at arm's length. In the 2000s, an appraisal was $350. Like there were no AMCs, it's $350. I mean, gosh, without getting into the crazy $2,000 in any rush fees. I mean, what's it now, Chasing? Like $600, $650, $550 to $650 for a regular appraisal?
Yeah, they typically run close to about $550, and then you figure $175, $200 goes to the AMC. So yeah, I mean, we're 10 years down the line from when appraisals were $350, and appraisers in a lot of scenarios are still making relatively that same amount. So it makes it tough. One of the things that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are doing that's definitely helped out is there's what we call appraisal waivers on a lot of loans right now. So if you're purchasing a house and you put a decent sized down payment down, you have a chance at it. Refinances, we're getting them left and right, which is nice. And the thought and the hope is that in the future we can kind of have more digital solutions instead of the old school solution of having somebody literally get out there, walk around, take pictures. So that's kind of the hope of the next generation. But in times like this where prices are going up so fast, most of these homes on purchases, they're not even qualifying for appraisal waivers, because when you look at the numbers, this house is selling for more than anything that's sold in that area. So the system just looks at it and says, oh yeah, we got to get somebody out there because this thing's higher than everything else. So it doesn't really fit into the algorithm. So it is triggering appraisals on a lot of this stuff. And as Serge talked about, it can really throw a wrench into the entire process, because you've got, everything lined up, your T's crossed and your I's dotted, and all of a sudden this appraisal comes in 20 grand light, and you got to figure out what you're going from there.
All right. Well, I was going to wrap it up, but now I got to ask. So it sounds like in certain scenarios, you want the appraisal to, as a buyer, do you want the appraisal to come in at price? Definitely not lower, but also definitely not higher, right? Or higher is a bonus.
Yeah, higher is a bonus.
Higher is a bonus.
Got it. All right, guys. Thanks for chatting today.